The Art of the Lie. Kylie, I think you're going to kick us off here.
Yeah, I was glad Soph chose this one for a few reasons. I think John Grant has really just been on a roll the last 3 or 4 records, and I count myself as a huge fan. The other part of that is that he spent his teenage years in a suburb of Denver, which I won't name here on the podcast, but it's I've got family there, and he didn't necessarily have the best upbringing as a gay man in a very conservative area, and so he's always had these dry lyrics that in their own way are kind of diss tracks, and I've always enjoyed the way that he's processed that experience into these just wickedly sharp songs. And I think it was I've been trying to remember. I think it was 2013 when I saw him open for Elbow in New York, and live, that was really what sent me down the John Grant rabbit hole. I'd listened to Pale Green Ghosts and thought it was all right, but seeing that album live and just what a powerful performer he is, just has made me a fan ever since. So, Boy from Michigan, 2021 was fantastic. Love Is Magic, 2018. Loved those 2 records. And then getting into this, I think we've had some brief discussions on this, but for me, The Art of the Lie is just immediately had pulled me in, even with its, it's got a challenging runtime. It's 11 songs, 1 hour. There's a couple of 3 songs over 7 minutes here, but he just, the way I need to describe this album is it's the most John Grant album. A lot of funk going on, but then there's some dirty synth parts that kind of remind me of like 90s Nine Inch Nails and stuff like that. And, the lyrics on point as always. I think All That School for Nothing, Marbles, Father, Mother, and Son. That for me is like great opening run there. Meek AF, I'm all right with that song. That one's the one that's kind of taken me a little while to get to. But Daddy and the Child Catcher, just fantastic songs on the back there. Laura Lou, that one I'm also not fully in on, but it's short. And then Zeitgeist, just a fantastic closer. So, love this record. If you love John Grant, you're going to love this record. If you aren't familiar with him, this might be kind of a tough entry point. But, for the fans, this is just a really great, witty record.
Are you on board with The Art of the Lie as well?
Yes, okay. I mean, I kind of mentioned it on the last one. The flip side to Goat Girl, this was one I really wasn't taken to on the first listen. It's, historically, I've always struggled to get into John Grant's music. Became aware of him around the time of Grey Tickles, Black Pressure, when it was, topping lots of year-end lists around that time. But yeah, that record, I mean, it didn't do anything for me at the time. Probably one that I'm thinking now I should go back and revisit, actually. But it wasn't really until his last album, Boy from Michigan, where it just finally clicked for me. Just a really fascinating, really engaging, as Kylie says, lyrically, really pulls you in with the stories that he tells. Quite theatrical collection of songs, going from this haunting piano ballad, The Cruise Room, which absolutely adore that song, to then these like expansive electronic epics like the title track, And then you kind of had songs like The Only Baby that was kind of like a best of both worlds, where it started out quite slow, just him on the piano, and then the electronics would kind of fill your headphones. So yeah, that year that album ended up quite high on my own year-end list. I think it was in the 20s. So yeah, like Go Girl, was excited to hear John follow up that record. And so, like I say, the first spin, I did think it was a real drag. But, you know, I think it just felt quite single-paced by comparison to Boy from Michigan. Nothing really took off. And there seems to be much more use of the vocoder this time around, which, whatever day it caught me in, just wasn't doing it for me. So I kind of stuck a pin in it, came back to it, then came back to it again and again. And yeah, this has done a complete 180. It's really clicking for me. And I'm finding myself more and more fond of it. Almost feel it's one of those where it's almost like looking back now, it's like single paced, really. Like there's so much going on with this one. All that School for Nothing, just a really funky start. Then you've got Marbles, really spacey instrumentation going on there. Some really fantastic guitar passages in the back end. Father, you know, reminded me a bit of Hot Chip, which is never a bad thing. Then, like you say, Kiley, Mother and Son kind of completes that great opening run, really trippy, dreamy soundscape. And I think that was the one actually that turned me off on the first listen, because it's got that annoying bit at the start where it just repeats that. It's like a tape recording of someone saying something. And yeah, I think it just grated on me at the time. But yeah, Sid's great to love that track. Really tender, quite intriguing at every turn as well. And then once again, it's the stuff in the back end, which is the best for me. You weren't so fond of me KF, but I really love that track. You know, it's this Trump trolling, you know, Daft Punk sounding song. For me, that's definitely one of the highlights. It's a bitch, you know, one of the short tracks on the album, but also one of the punchiest. Super funky again, shades of, you know, Peter Gabriel at his peak. And then, like you say, Daddy, that could be right there alongside some of my favourite moments on Boy from Michigan. Really subtle at first, and then it just erupts into these like operatic swells of electronica. Really powerful song. And then, yeah, The Child Catcher, a similar story. But with some exceptional guitar work at the end of that one as well. So, overall, I'd say one. I thought at first I wasn't going to like it all, but yeah, I've really grown to love this one. To the point, I think, there's a good chance it could be probably somewhere on my year-end list again. At this moment in time, it's like I say, a complete 180. So,
two strong reviews there. You know, I can say to your point, Kiley, that this is a first album listened to John Grant. So, but I wasn't put off. So, it's an interesting one. I think, you know, listening to you both, I to be honest, when you were talking, Kiley, the way you read the album is kind of how I read it, in terms of the ones which you've highlighted, the runs, and the ones which I'm less fussed about as well. So probably don't need to say that in as many words. I think there's kind of two albums here, and then they're kind of mixed together. There's the one which is the very engrossing synth, dark, you know, quite long tracks, and very heart on your sleeve, which I think I've read tends to be the way John Grant goes about his business. And that one was just that I've found those songs in particular really immersing. It took me longer to get a bit more into the funkier ones. I mean, apart from All That School for Nothing, which is just a great opener, so catchy. It's kind of in my head now. But yeah, in that way, and I was just thinking about right now when you go through your review there, Karl, was that it kind of reminds me of St. Vincent in that sense, in that the bits I'm really digging are like that darker, and you said it, Kylie, it says a 9 Inch Nails. Maybe the conclusion from listening to both St. Vincent and John Grant is that I need to listen to 9 Inch Nails. so which is not a bad conclusion to reach.
Where you been?
Sorry?
I said, where you been?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's quite a notable gap on my music listening CV. Although, yeah, plenty more than you guys on that front. And in terms of gaps, and yeah, just so that for me was really where it hit. And yeah, just I think when you have something like that, you don't mind the length being so long. It's what I always say to you guys, as much as we talk about like the snackable nature of albums and that maybe 30 to 40 minute sweet spot perhaps now, but if it's justifiable, a bit like who was it, Glass Beach with Plastic Death earlier in the year, that was a runtime over an hour and but just stunning kind of variety, and this one keeps me going. I think there are a couple of songs I was less fussed about really, but they're more on the funkier side of things, and I think I just wanted an even deeper kind of descent into the darkness of John Grant and the very very personal lyrics. I will just to finish off just highlight in particular Father, which for me is got to be up there in one of the songs of the year. Just one of those where like an incredibly sort of blunt lyrics focus of a song, which doesn't always work, but on that song there's just something about it which elevates it above all others on this album, and I just thought was just so fantastic. I mean, you referred to his upbringing, which clearly a lot of this album refers to as well, in a very conservative religious family, and him and John being gay, and the pain of that is just unbelievable in this track, where he's just talking about missing his father and also his shame and not being the man that his father wanted him to be, which there's something unbelievably powerful, very upsetting as well. And that kind of family dynamic is brought up again, mother and son as well, which remind me a little bit of this band called Pavo Pavo, which I've not heard anything from them since 2019, but a really cool like electronic duo, worth checking out. And yeah, Daddy and the Child Catcher in particular, I just think is fantastic, just so ominous but so compelling. So yeah, come back next time, John, with one which just sticks to that darkness, and yeah, I'll be saying that's album of the year. But yeah, really, really great first deep dive into his stuff, because he's always been someone, I think, like three of the artists we're talking about tonight, who've kind of been on the precipice of my interest, like Goat Girl, and another one we'll come to. And basically all three of them, I'm really glad we've had this dive into an album. So three very positive reviews of The Art of the Lie.